My specs were my Bible. I used to have a hard copy of my spec for each job next to me and all highlighted with different tabs and labels because you had to refer to that quite a lot.
Welcome to the Ground Investigation Podcast, a show featuring interviews and insights from leaders in the geotechnical and geoenvironmental business world. Join host Michael Taylor as he discusses the ups and downs of running a business in the GI industry, getting geological experts to share their learnings and lessons, as well as their plans for the future, highlighting what they think will improve the ground investigation industry moving forward. Now, here is your host, Michael Taylor.
Welcome to the podcast. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background and your journey into the geotechnical and geoenvironmental industry to start off with.
Yeah, of course. So I've been working in the industry for 8 years now. I graduated in 2015 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Earth Science, so geology, and I had no idea what I was going to go into. Originally it was petroleum, but there was no jobs in 2015 when I graduated, so I had to kind of have a think, what do I want to do? And engineering geology popped up. I did a wee course as well in my 4th year at uni, which was called Engineering Earth Science. And that kind of brought to light this whole engineering geology side of things, which I didn't really know about when I was didn't know that you could go into a career like that. So I ended up coming down this route, and I worked for a smaller contractor to begin with, called Phoenix Drilling, for a year or just under. And then I went to a bigger contractor called Soil Engineering and worked there for 5.5, 6 years. And now I work for Story Contracting as a Senior Engineering Geologist. So I got to work my way up really quickly. Especially when I was at Soil Engineering, they really, really pushed me, and I was quite lucky because I got to experience and do jobs that you wouldn't do when you only had 3 or 4 years experience. I was the technical lead on some of the A9 projects up north, for Transport Scotland. I also got to be the technical lead down in HS2 as well, and they gave me a lot of opportunity when I was at Soils, and yeah, that's about it. That kind of sums up a brief kind of career history, I guess.
Okay, so you mentioned about your master's in. So what was the kind of focus with that master's?
Oh, I didn't do it. It was a Bachelor of Science degree, so I didn't do a master's. So it was just it was just a normal geology degree. I did want to do a master's though when I left uni. I went into the industry first, and once I started earning money, I was just I'm not going back to uni. Maybe at one point in the future I might go back to uni to do a master's, but I really, really enjoy my career. It's a good challenge for me. I really like the whole everything I do. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. My job is like a hobby to me rather than anything else. Even though it can be stressful and there's a lot of pressures involved and a lot of challenges, but at the end of the day it's really rewarding.
It's a rewarding industry to be in, and I always think it's better to go into the industry first. You can always think about your masters unless you need to to do something specifically. There are some companies that require it for certain roles, but to have a year's experience, if someone's done a sandwich course, for instance, to have a year's experience in a bachelor's, I would think would top, just doing the bachelor's and then the sort of masters at the end.
It was something I thought about, but just ended up working away, and I really enjoy working. So it's never too late, as you say. If I want to go down something in the future and do a master's, return to the master's, or even do a PhD, that's kind of crossed my mind too a few times, because I'd love to teach others about geology at one point in my life. So maybe.
Okay. So with 8 years of experience, like you just said, as an engineering geologist, could you sort of share some highlights from your career that's been particularly meaningful to you?
There was a job that was 2018 we were on it, and it was up by Loch Lomond. It was 82, and the reason they were doing the GI there was because the road is very narrow and it's very dangerous as well. So we were doing it between Tarbert and Inverrowing, and this is the job that probably really pushed my career to where it is today and gave me the experience as well that I have today. So I was a lead logging engineer on that job, and we were drilling boreholes over the water on Loch Lomond on pontoons, and we were also drilling boreholes on the hillside. So the access was really, really difficult. And the thing that I loved about geology in uni was metamorphic rocks. They were I have a big, massive thing. They're still my favourite. I love metamorphic rocks. So being able to see like the rocks, like the core that came out of like from under Loch Lomond, that was honestly, it was amazing. Like I was like, wow, look at this, look at these layers, look at the bands, like look at like, oh, the foliations were beautiful. And on that job, like as I said at the beginning, I was a lead logging engineer, and the technical manager on the job, like it was a lad like traveling up and down from London, like from the soil engineering office down there. Like he left the company, and the company, like my boss gave me the opportunity to take over his position. Now his position would usually, like a technical manager on a site like this would usually be like held by someone that was a senior engineering geologist or a principal engineering geologist that had a little bit more experience than me. And I only had like 3 or 4 years at this point in my career, and they gave me that opportunity, and I did a really good job of tidying everything up. Like there was obviously little bits and bobs here and there, but there was quite a lot of things that like we caught in the end that we still had to like carry out, like for the technical side of things, to make sure that we had covered everything. So it was a really good challenge. It kind of opened my eyes up to what route I wanted to follow in my career, which is more a technical kind of route rather than the other side, the operational route, which is what you can also go down, I guess, in this career. There's many different things, you know, that you can go down, but it really, really opened up my eyes, and I really enjoyed it. I did a good job, and then from then on, I had like another opportunity to actually go to another Transport Scotland job, like between Pitlochry on the A9, between Pitlochry and what was it, Glengarry, and that was for Jacobs, and it was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed that too, and I did well. I would say it was a good job to be on. Had a good team under me as well, and I loved it. So I would probably say that was highlight of my career, like so far. Like when like that's what really pushed me into what I'm doing now.
It sounds like you were given a lot of responsibility, which you can either sort of sink and swim. It sounds like you swam very well. We do have a couple of other questions a bit further down the line from the A32 and A82, should I say, and the A9. What kind of led you to become passionate about engineering geology, and how would you say it's kind of evolved over your time of actually practicing it?
Okay, so I think it probably did start when I was really young, but I just didn't know that you could get into something like this. So obviously growing up, I did really enjoy like watching documentaries about rocks, but also watching documentaries about how roads were built and how structures were built. And I remember doing this like engineering thing like at school where you had to build a bridge and put like a dictionary on top of it and make sure that this bridge could hold this dictionary, which obviously my team, like, you know, we did a good job at this, like building this bridge, and we were able to hold it, like, and it kind of opened like my eyes up a wee bit. But when I was actually at school, I didn't feel like they concentrated. I felt like they concentrated more on the smarter people. I was average at school. I came out with 4 hires, yes, but it wasn't what I needed to get into uni. And to get into uni, I had to go do a HNC first, which I went to go do, and then I got into uni. And when I was in my 4th year at uni, like doing that course, like obviously you learn about the basics in geology when you do a degree in geology, so you learn about all, you know, as you can imagine yourself as well, you've got the background too. Like, but in my 4th year doing that engineering earth science course that was mentioned before, it kind of opened up my eyes, and I thought, wow, you have to do you have to drill boreholes for everything. Like you can't just, you know, go and build something. You need to know what's in the ground before you build like a road, railway, bridge, like house, anything at all. And that really, really opened up my eyes. And it's honestly, I love it because it's allowed me to like kind of learn like the geology of Scotland and parts of England too, just by like going and drilling boreholes all over the place. Because when you're in uni, you don't really pick it up like that well. Like, I mean, they teach you about the geology of Scotland, and you might remember certain bits from field trips, but actually looking and identifying different rock types and telling you their history and what formation they belong to, like that's something that like I love like doing about what I do, like, or teaching the junior engineers what's what when it comes to coal measures or comes to like the metamorphic rocks in the Highlands. I love that. It's brilliant. Like that's probably my favourite thing about the job. It's like when I get to see some rock core. But anyway, it was the engineering earth science course probably that pushed me like towards this career in the end, and just having a really good like background, a really good like experience, like being with the companies that I've been with, and obviously being with the company that I'm with just now, like Story Contract, and they're really pushing me towards my goals and my career and my life, which is good, really, really good. I don't know if that. I
No,
forgot
that's
what the question was.
no, you went into it there, so that was absolutely ideal. So you mentioned about your work for a story contract, and at the moment, can you tell us a little bit about that role and sort of what projects you've been involved in so far?
Yeah, of course. So I just started working for Story Contract in a year and 8 months ago. So they were looking for someone to kind of expand their Scottish office. So I was their first senior geotech engineer based, well, even their first geotech engineer based in Scotland. Their team's
Okay.
primarily down south. So Story Contract, and they're a civil engineering like company contractor, like so they do get involved with like a lot of rail, like that they're going into highways now. There's like lots of different projects, but they have their own
Uh-huh.
geotech team now, which they acquired like a few years ago. Like, and the geotech team, the geotech side of things has been expanding recently, and we've had more opportunities. Well, obviously we've been tendering for more opportunities as well, but even more opportunities for the business where we're able to go to site and carry out some ground investigations for projects that we're constructing in the future. So it's really cool that we get to take that project from the beginning to the very end. So it's brilliant. Like what I do primarily is I project manage like other engineers on site right now. Like so
Uh-huh.
I'm mainly based in the office, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand our team in Scotland, and we're trying to grow like as a company as a whole, like across Scotland and England. We've probably got a team that's made up of 28 of us, like 29. I might be wrong on that. I probably should have checked that before like I came on this call, but there is like
About.
that we're all spread across the country. There's engineers down in like Normanton, where our main kind of geotech base is. And
Mhm.
then there's like a few of us up here now, and there's some engineers in Carlisle and some in Chorley. So there's offices across the UK that still they have. And we're getting in like with new clients like as well. Some people still come to me today and they say, "Oh, Story have their own geotech team. That's brilliant. I need to set up a meeting and discuss potential works in the future," which is well hopefully after this podcast as well, like I might get like a few more inquiries sent
Yeah.
through. But yeah, I mainly just deal with the project management of like small to medium sized ground investigations. So
Cool.
we've been doing a lot of work like recently up in Leavenmouth, like
Mhm.
last year. Like they've obviously been putting the new track in, like and we've been working in tandem with BAM as well, like every now and then. Like I mean, we're not primarily based up there, the geotech team, but we've been going up and down, like doing ground investigations up there. And there's been a few other projects like here, there, and everywhere, just across Glasgow and in Scotland in general, like up in Fort William. And then as well, I deal with the project management of the projects down in North England. I kind of take North England and Scotland on, where like the senior engineers down in our Normanton office take like England and London, like down like south
Yeah.
that way. So yeah, it's just a mixture of different projects. I came from a background though where I worked on major projects, like as in HS2.
Uh-huh.
Like when I was at Soil Engineering, it was like £11 million that project. So it's a bit different, like because of my background. Like I came from the major projects, but I still worked on every now and then small to medium sized projects with soil engineering. But now at Story, it's more small to medium sized projects. So it's I've been getting used to it, but it's really good. Like I really enjoy what I do. It's like every day is a school day, and every day as well is a challenge and different.
Yeah, I noticed story contracts coming online a couple of years ago in terms of the geotechnical side, and sort of seeing all their posts
Yeah,
on LinkedIn. They seem to have a really good employee brand, or employer brand, should I say. So it seems like kind of one of the good ones, one of the professional ones, one of the ones that is not
oh
quite
yeah,
a cut and
yeah.
shut and leg it before something goes wrong. So in your CV, you mentioned about becoming a chartered geologist. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about the goal and its significance in your career.
But like honestly, it's something that's still in the progress that I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Like obviously, you can imagine like a busy girl like me with what I do every day, especially as well now that this whole social media, like my socials in the background, I do that all in my spare time. But we'll go on
Hmm.
and talk about that later on. Um, I struggle with time a lot, like
Yeah.
as you can imagine. it's really difficult to plan and do things and put things in, especially as well, like attending CPD events. But it's something that I've probably been able to actually do over the last 2 years because I no longer work away anymore. Like obviously before, when I was a soil engineer and I worked on HS2 for like a year and a half, so I was traveling up and down every week.
Yeah.
Like, and the weekends were primarily spent with like my family or my partner at the time, like, and there was no really extra time to go attend CPD event. Well, obviously COVID had an impact on that too. Like, so I feel like I struggled to record my CPD and build it up to become chartered, but it's actually something now that I've spent a little bit of time on recently, like maybe the last 6 months, and I've attended a few talks from the Geological Society talking about charterships because it's very confusing for a while what's actually required, and they've changed a lot of things recently on what you need to do it, and the whole mentorship program as well. Like honestly, I need to like get some time maybe like in the next few months and actually sit down and start putting everything together. But it's definitely something that I want to do in the future. I definitely want to become chartered, hopefully next year.
Okay.
So I'm in the process of just putting everything together. But I would always recommend to anyone, just record it as you go. Do not do what I did, and don't like honestly. See, going back in time and trying to think what I did, and then trying to get it signed off by people. I'm like, oh my god, it's honestly a nightmare. So if any engineers are watching this and want to become chartered, like just make sure that you're recording it as you go along. But I think that's just due to the lack of information that we were given as juniors, because not a lot of people like that I worked with at the time were chartered. There was maybe one person in the whole company that was chartered or something like that. So you didn't really know a lot about it, and they didn't really push you towards it. But I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, that's it. And the advice you gave in terms of kind of logging it as you go, rather than getting to the point you're like, well, it could be, but now I have to backtrack, and this person's left the company, and you need to track them down, and all the rest of it is not going to be ideal. So yeah, it's sort of good advice. So in your experience and skills so far, you've got a lot of training skills. So from SMSTS to mental health first aid, how has the additional skills impacted your work as an engineering geologist, especially in the mental health first aid type?
I think it's brilliant because you can really open up to certain people on site. Like I remember, like there's been a few incidences like in the past, like where like you'd be on site, you'd notice that there's something wrong with some, or they're not looking their best, and all I used to do was just take them to this, like obviously not embarrass them, you know what I mean, like, but if you ever need to chat, you know where I am. Like I'll happily like talk to anyone about anything. I'm quite an open and honest person. Like so when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's not, you know, it's not like that you look down at certain people, etc. Like you just let them know that you're there. Like I really enjoyed that training course. It opened up a lot of things for me, and it made me think differently, because don't get me wrong, everyone suffers from anxiety at one point in their life. Everyone has stuff going on in the background at home, and it's just nice sometimes to be able to like open up and talk about that. Of course, obviously if they don't want to talk about it, then fair enough, but I mean, I live each day as it comes, and don't get me wrong, we all have our like bad days and our good days, and you know, it comes with life, and I just have the mentality where like you just kind of you live each day as it comes, and you get on, like, and you talk. If you want to talk to someone, then you can come talk to me.
Sure.
Or, you know.
Sure. What was some of the
go talk to someone?
What were some of the key things that you learned from the mental health? Because is it a 3-day course, the mental health course?
It was, yeah. It's a while since I've done it, to be honest. Like, but I learned kind of like try not to worry as much as you do worry. Like, try to like start living like your life rather than worry. But like, I learned how to maybe approach people that had a different mindset to mine. Because everyone thinks differently, and it kind of opened up like a lot more than what I thought was involved in. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, we've all been there, we've all like went through really bad periods in our lifetime, so sometimes you can relate that to like other people's experiences and give them advice based on what advice you took, or you know, like it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Cannot remember for the life of me the name of the woman that delivered the course, but she was absolutely brilliant. Honestly, I think I still follow her on Instagram or something like that, but it was brilliant. Really good course.
Okay, so you were talking about some of the projects you've been involved in earlier on, such as HS2, there's an Aqueduct Resilience Programme also. So can you share some of your insights into the challenges and successes which you've encountered whilst you're managing those projects?
Probably on HS2, there was a lot of access issues like involved in the project. As you can imagine, like, and then obviously for constructing quite a lot of the time, as well as like doing boreholes, like in areas that we'd already done boreholes. It was really good though, don't get me wrong, but I did deal mainly with the technical side of things. So probably the most difficult thing, like with regards to the technical side, was trying to get all the logging engineers to log consistently. Because obviously people from different backgrounds, if you've got agency engineers working under you as well, and you've got junior engineers, graduates that are fresh out of uni, you want them to all log consistently so that every engineer's log that goes to the client looks the same and is consistent. I should be able to pick up a log and not know who's logged that just by like looking at, like, every single log should look the same, you know, like the way that they say things, the way that they do their discontinuity logs, the way that they describe, like, if it was Mercy, a mudstone. So I found it really difficult at first to manage, like, and try get the logging engineers to log consistently, because obviously client comments would come through and you'd be like, God, how am I, like, I'll need to amend this and do that and then feed it back to the engineers. And because your time was limited, we had like 11, 12 rigs on that site, or 30. I can't even remember how many it was, but there was quite a lot of drilling rigs. I had 4 logging engineers in the logging shed and 2 technicians as well that helped photograph and prep the core and subsample it as well. So there was a lot going on. And then I had 2 shovel pitting engineers as well that were out on site. Like, so I had all these logs coming in, and at one point, honestly, it was mental. When all rigs were running, you just imagine that was probably another challenge. It got busy. It got really, really busy, and there was a lot to do. But see, if you cracked that and you got them to log it consistently and the same every single time, then you would spend less time correcting the logs and less time feeding back to the engineers and less time, like, you know, dealing with comments from clients. So it took a while, but we got there eventually. It was difficult as well, like, obviously managing people that were older than me, because I'm like, I was quite, well, I'm still like, I mean, I'm 31 now, right? But when I was on HS2, that was like 2 years ago. So I had logging engineers that were like in their 50s. Like, so there was one that was like just retired. And see, trying to like tell him, like, you know, like, listen, I need you to do it this way. Can you like write it this way? Like, instead, it was really difficult at first. But I think eventually, once they gain respect for you, like, and they know that, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't know everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one knows everything. But once you sit down and explain, like, listen, this is how we're going to do it. I used to go in and like draw things on the whiteboard and be like, right, what's wrong with this log? What is missing? What's not matching up? And they'd all be looking at it and they're like, the fracture index or the fracture spacing doesn't match up with the RQD on the log, or that doesn't match. And I'd be like, yes, that's what I like to hear. And then it would, like, they'd learn from it, you know. But it was just always really funny because I didn't want to go in and pick on any individuals. I wanted to make sure that they were all trained and taught like the same thing, like, because every site's different, every client's different, and they request different things depending on what's in the spec. So that was probably my hardest challenge, like, when it came to those projects, well, HS2, like, particularly. It was kind of similar as well at the Haweswater Aqueduct. Like, that was an interesting job because they were drilling 200-metre boreholes. And, like, it's quite cool because, you know, I've never seen a 200-metre borehole. But walking into a logging shed, it's all just sandstones and siltstones and mudstones. And I was like, oh, England's boring. I used to love it. See, when I work on the Highland jobs in the Highlands of Scotland, and you got to walk into a logging shed where there was all these metamorphic rocks and all of these beautiful, like, granitic intrusions cutting through the metamorphic rocks, like, in your sedimentary. Oh my God, I loved that. I used to go into the logging shed and be like, right, kiddos, what have we got today? Like, guys, what have we got today? Like, honestly, it was brilliant. Like, you'd come across some really cool, interesting things. And that highlighted my day, because when I was a junior and I was logging this stuff, I used to love stuff like that. Logging was my favourite thing to do as a junior. So every time they do get boxes out and it's rotary core and I have to teach the others about it, I'm like, right, okay, what are we looking at today? Oh, look at that rock. They think I'm mental.
Well, you're very passionate about it, and especially in relation to the logging. You mentioned about consistency a moment ago. I've been on the HS2 site in the logging shed, and I think we had David Norby there a few times, constantly going through making the consistency, whether it's the geotechnical logging, whether it's the colours being used and description of it. So it's like a constant process. And as you mentioned, clients will demand it to be done in a different way. So you think, well, I can log rock, and then all of a sudden you go somewhere else and go, oh no, you're doing it wrong. How am I doing it wrong? This is how you... And it's very, it's a bit different. It depends on where you go.
I think it's so important to have communication with, like, the client, just agreeing on how you want it logged. Like, the first thing you should do on a big site like that is get them in the logging shed with you and be like, this is how we're going to like that's what we're going to call this. Are you happy with that? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, right, we're doing it this way.
No, that's an important point. So that brings us on to the A9 Julian project then, so which has been a sort of a good part of your portfolio so far. Can you elaborate on the technical aspects and complexities that you dealt with, during the project?
Probably quite similar to like those on like the HS2. It's just trying to get loggers to log consistently. Obviously, like access was like a bit of an issue as well, like, but that was mainly like dealt with like the site agent on site, like the site manager, and like we also had like a drilling manager on site. But it was probably more like the monitoring like involved in that project that was like more of a like issue, not issue, like as into there was just a lot of things to try get done during the course of like the project, and we were only there for like 10 weeks or so trying to get everything done with just field engineers, limited staff was difficult, and having to dip every single hole every day for like a week and then so on. Like, I can't remember the exact what was in the specifications, but trying to track that, like, I mean, I love my trackers, always set up trackers, like it, like, Excel like is going to be your best friend. Like, filling in trackers every day, tracking everything that happens on site, like your site control, like that. My boss, like my old boss, like she told me to do that. She was like, your site controls, like that's your best friend on site. That'll tell you everything. If you don't keep it up to date, then you will lose track of what's required. And I remember taking over that E82 job that I took over. When I took that over, like, I realised that there was a lot of information missing. They hadn't done full and head tests for certain boreholes. They hadn't developed certain, but they hadn't monitored, like, they hadn't been dipping certain boreholes. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best. How can anyone, like, not have a tracker in place to like, it just shows you how important it is to make sure that you know what's required on a site as well before you go to it. Like, make sure you're reading your specification, make sure that you are covering everything, and make sure as well that like you're recording it all as you go along too, and everything as well has been typed up and everything's been put into like whole base as well, and make sure that it's just all there and done and dusted, and then all you have to deal with is the report when you get back to the office. Another
so it sounds like that was good advice. So Sarah Proctor, I presume you're speaking about, are you?
Yeah, so that was she really pushed me, and so did Ian Swain as well. See, when I was down on HS2, I'll always be thankful for the time that they spent with me. Like in my career. So if they're listening to this, thanks.
Okay, so that kind of helped mentor you really and push you, make you kind of get where you've got so far.
And John Duxbury as well. He was probably the one that pushed me to take over technical lead on the 82, because at first I was like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, we're going to have a meeting with Sarah and this is going to be your interview for being technical manager on this job. And I'm like, shut up, no it's not. And it was just a brief chat, just talking about, like, what do we need to do for this site? Like, you're going to be doing this now. And I'm like, oh my God, they're really pushing me. I'll always be thankful. It was really hard. Like, see, when I left soil engineering, like, it was really, really difficult, like, to leave them. But I had to move on with my career, and I had to move on to something, like, that would give me what I wanted in life. And I really, really appreciated all the time, though, that they spent with me, like, to push me and to push me into the career that I am in, like, and give me the experience that I gained as a junior. Don't get me wrong, you had to work your hard, like, you have to work hard for it, like, really, really, like,
there's no shortcut to hard work in ground investigations, is it? In progression, and you do clock up the hours on site, and I imagine there's many times when you were a lot more than 10 hours, especially when you're considering everything else involved. So I was wondering if you could sort of just walk us through some of the responsibilities as technical manager, say, for instance, on the A82.
So if you were technical manager on a project such as the 82 or even the A9 or HS2, you would deal with the whole technical side of that project. So that would like include like checking drawers logs, like for consistency, making sure that like they were like you would usually hand it over to the site manager, site agent, like, and they would check it commercially. But you'd make sure that all the technical information that's required from like whatever specification you were working to, whether it was the Yellow Book or the MFA for Transport Scotland jobs or the highway spec, you'd make sure that all that information on the drawers log was there, like, so that before you sent it to your client, everything was checked. Because you know what they're like, they sometimes like they'd come back and be like, oh, you can't, like, you've not like Like you can't like claim for that chiseling or something like that. You can't claim for this. So it opened my eyes up commercially, like because you have to really think about, okay, like there's certain things that have to be done a certain way, like depending on what specification you're working to. So like, yeah, you deal with that. Like also before site, you would make sure that you were familiar with your spec. My specs were my Bible. I used to have a hard copy of my spec for each job next to me and all highlighted with different tabs and labels, because you had to refer to that quite a lot, especially when the client was like, no, you have to do this. And I'm like, excuse me, but no, on this section here, no, we don't. But then you'd get the opposite way about when you'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I must have missed that. Or can you point that out in the specification? I don't know where that is. And then they point it out and you'd be like, oh, right, no worries. Yes, we'll go that or something. So yeah, technical side kind of dealt with that, making sure like drillers instructions. So the drillers would phone you like for instructions, like for installs. You'd be the one that would communicate with the client, like liaise with the client each day, depending on what was required for each borehole. So if you've got 10 rigs on site, you've got 10 drillers, maybe 5 drillers a day phoning you, depending on what boreholes are on, and depending on what's in the spec and in the schedule too. They would phone you up, like, be like, all right, Hen, can I get an installation instruction or whatever? Like, I've picked up so many slang words from drillers, but they'd be like, yeah, that's me finish my borehole, I'm at 10 metres or whatever. So you don't then go in and speak to the client and get an installation instruction or whatever the instruction was. Make sure that you're recording all that information and make sure you're as well feeding that back like to them later on in the day and confirming all the verbal instructions each day, like by email or by Excel, or just make sure you record it because people don't do that, and it really frustrates me.
It comes back to you later on, doesn't it? If you don't record something, you get asked a question, you're like, I didn't look, I didn't check, I didn't write that down.
Yeah, basically, oh, you told us to install that. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Where's your evidence?
Yeah.
I don't have it. Yeah, so it's so important to make sure that, like, when you're a technical lead on a project, like, like everything's been recorded properly, and like, you also dealt with the management of like the monitoring engineers, the trial pitting engineers, like the logging engineers. So any logs produced by them or any data at all from like monitoring engineers, like you had to make sure that it was all, like done properly, consistently, like typed up properly, like as well, like everything was done and dusted on site so that like your trackers were all set up for this reason. Like that's how important it was to have a really good site control, because you had to update that thing daily and make sure that everything was correct. You'd be sending things to the client, like with transmittals, all the engineers' logs, schedules, etc., everything. Sometimes on the bigger jobs, you would have a data manager, like HS2, the data manager would send everything or upload it onto the, what's it called again, BC? Can't remember the thing that like they used to use that you had to upload all the documents onto, but that was brilliant having a wee assistant to like help you out with these things, because it got too much to the point where I was like spending the majority of my time trying to check logs every day because there was so many boreholes that were coming through that logging shed, and oh my goodness, and it was on Mercy and Mudstone as well. So honestly, I was like, ugh, this is disgusting. I'd walk in at the logging shed, it'd be clay. I'm like, oh, reddish brown clay. But it was a good experience. It opened me up, and I learned how to log Mercy and Mudstone as well down there. But like just those kind of things, the whole technical side of the things, you would take the project from the beginning to the end, and then once you got back to the office, you would deal with all the lab tests and result everything like to do with that project, from like doing the report, building the reports together, like updating all the logs with client comments, like lab tests and corrections, everything like related to that project. You would take that project to the very end. So it tended to be that I'd be on site for 10 weeks or whatever it was, like 12 weeks or 6 weeks on projects, like, and go back to the office and deal with the report, like, and deal with the comments for that report until they accepted like the report, which was really good, a good experience. I really enjoyed doing that. It helped me, it like opened up my eyes to things, issues that you would avoid. Like, it was a lessons learned sometimes as well. Like, don't get me wrong, no company can do it perfect for some strange reason in this ground investigation industry. There's always things that are missed by accident, and it's just all about like swinging back and trying to pick them up properly and making sure that you do it properly next time, like if that makes any sense. But I really enjoyed like doing stuff like that. Technical like lead was my favourite thing to do on a major project. Like, I loved it. And I think that kind of goes into like...
Sure. So what are some of the key lessons that you would say from the experience of managing the sort of ground investigation of various sizes?
There's so many. Well, there's not really. Just make sure that you're like, you understand what's required. make sure that you're briefing everything out, like to the lads, like on site, making sure that you have all the correct documentations like in place and your client's happy with it. Make sure you read your spec. Like honestly, like so many like people that I know, like they just go to site and they don't read their specification, and I'm like, why are you going to site in the first place and you don't even know what's going on, and then your drillers don't know what's going on. Probably like just those kind of things, like simple enough, like things to do with ground investigation, like that some people just forget about. And it's hard because you have your seniors that are that busy and caught up that they don't teach their juniors nowadays how to do it properly. So the juniors go to site and then they get like, you know, the client's like, what's this? What's that? Why is that not being done? And the junior has no idea because their mentor like is meant to teaching them this, and they've not, like, or sometimes they do, you know. I'm not bad mouthing anyone. It's just like sometimes I've seen it in the past and I'm like, oh well, no wonder like that's happened.
I suppose sometimes with like what you were talking about a moment ago, you're checking all these logs, you're running the sites, doing so many things, and then you have to do the mentor on top, and there's only so many hours a day. You have to be extraordinarily efficient.
There is.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to prioritize things.
Yeah, you definitely do. So given your experience, then, what advice would you give to sort of young professionals sort of looking to build a career similar to yourself in the geotechnical and geoenvironmental industry?
I'd probably say always, if you want to do it, go for it. Always follow your dream, but always ask questions. It doesn't matter how silly they are. I always asked questions when I was a junior. If I wasn't sure about something, I wouldn't just go out to site and go do it. I'd be like, no, why are we doing this? If you're not open. I was taught by my boss, like, let's say that again. She says, if you don't start standing up for yourself, if you don't start opening up, they'll walk all over you forever. And I was like, oh my God, this was when I was like a baby, like in the ground investigation like scene. I was like, what? And she was right. Because you come into an industry, especially like as well, like if you're a female too, like you come in and you're like, well, there's all these guys like that are like, you get some lads are brilliant to work with, other lads are like sometimes a bit of a pain in the, I'm not doing that. And you're like, well, you have to know your borehole. And it's just finding that balance and finding that respect as well between teams and working with the drillers together, working as a team with other engineers and drillers so that we get the job done. It's not about who's better than who, like you know what I mean, like if you know what I mean, like when I say that, it's just about working as a team, like making sure that you're asking questions, making sure that you're like familiar as well, like getting the answer, getting the training that you need as well is really important, like from senior staff members or from, you know, whoever. We've got an apprenticeship like Lassie with as well. She's not doing an apprenticeship in geology because there is no such thing that exists as of yet. Well, I know that they're in the process of making up an apprenticeship for geology, but she's doing a civil engineering degree, but she's part of our geotech team and she's absolutely brilliant. See the stuff that she comes out with for only being like 19, 20, I can't remember what age she is now. She's been with us for a year and a half, 2 years nearly. See some of the things that she like comes out with because she's so passionate. She wants to learn, she wants to know these things. It's brilliant. And that's what I say, like always ask questions. If you're unsure about something, just ask me it. Or ask, if I don't know the answer, I'll go find out for you, or we can ask someone else. Like, but just make sure you speak up. It's a really difficult industry when you first start because there's a lot involved. You have to work hard. Like, there's a lot of hours put in. Like, you know what it's like. It's difficult. Like and don't get me wrong, some contractors like may like treat others like differently than where you worked before and stuff. So it's a hard industry to work in. But see, if you really push yourself and they give you the opportunity, and don't be afraid to never ever, like, don't be afraid to not say what you want in your career, because like if you don't tell them what you want to do and what you want to progress to, then they're never going to give you that either. Like, I mean, I always wanted to be in the logging shed when I was junior, and I just kept saying, can I go in the logging shed? But then one day they sent me out trial pit and I was like, oh, I mean, this is okay, but can I go back in the logging shed because I loved rocks? Like, and I think that's why I went up the technical route, because I was good at that and I learned all that really quickly, and I kind of went, and I'm glad I did it. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to like learn more about the operational kind of side of things, and don't get me wrong either, like when I was running my own little projects, like being site manager on them, it was easy enough to pick up. Sometimes things would go wrong and you'd be like, oh, it's all about problem solving and stuff when it does come to that. There's always like things you can do to, you know, fix things on site and help others. And I just say, like, just follow. If you want to do it, go follow
That's
your
it.
dream.
Follow your dreams, work hard, and
So
and you'll get there.
yeah,
I mean, that's an important one, especially when you, as a graduate, when you first start working with drillers, or if you're not maybe principal contractor, and someone else has control, and you need access to same area, and like they want to go first, but you need to get something done by a certain time. Then that's something that you kind of get thrown into, isn't it? And you do have to learn how to do that, because that is important on a successful ground investigation.
Yeah, definitely. And some of these graduates that come out of uni, obviously they don't have the communication skills like that you need for this industry. So I'd always say, like, just try to learn to, and that's maybe why I say this, Ed, which you said to me as a junior. So I was quite quiet. I mean, I worked in a hotel when I was at uni, and I got communicated with people every day. I talked to people every day because I was a waitress. Like, but when I was at uni, talking to people or like presenting in front of people, I really struggled with that. I'd be like, I was quite shy back then. Now I'm just loud. You can't get me to shut up sometimes. Like when I'm sitting down in a meeting, or if I'm doing a talk nowadays, I don't know. I think my career's helped me build a lot of confidence as well. Like, I'm not saying I'm confident, but I'm quite.
I think it's better to say your piece, as you say, rather be quiet, because if something would go wrong, you won't voice it. You'll maybe voice it later on via email. But you need to, there are times when you need to say something about whatever it is there and then, and not let things slide and slip otherwise. Yeah, exactly. So what are your kind of future aspirations for the industry? Are there any more sort of specific challenges or areas that you're excited about going forwards?
I just want to continue to work my way up, hopefully become a principal engineering geologist very soon, and then have a bigger team working under me that I can still help project manage, help teach people. Like, that's my favourite thing to do in this industry, is just teach the juniors how to do things and teach them how to do it properly. Like, I never really, I did get to, sometimes, but when I was a graduate, first in the industry, I never really had anyone that I could look up to. I had to try, learn it all by myself, and it was hard, but I got there eventually, and then obviously, the training that I got as well, and, the experiences that I gained, over working, in the different projects that I've worked on, I appreciate them all. It was hard work sometimes, don't get me wrong, and you had bad projects and good projects, but it was all worth it, because it's made me who I am today. Can't remember what
if you had to change one thing about kind of ground investigation industry, what would it be and why?
Oh God, that's a hard one.
What would you improve on?
Oh my goodness.
Or should be improved upon? It does.
It depends on what company you work for.
Depends on the company, it depends on the size.
I don't know. I would just say that having a sit down with everyone at the beginning, and making sure that everyone logs consistently, even within a company, within stories, sometimes I've noticed some of the engineers log inconsistently from others, and you might have a few engineers involved in it, but we just all have a sit down, because I really enjoy it. Because I've never really came across anything.
Do you ever see any health and safety kind of bad attitudes towards health and safety, that sort of thing?
Not really, no. I've been quite lucky in a way that the lads, most jobs I've been on, especially when I was at soil engineering and the story as well, they've all been very, the health and safety is quite high up. And it's always the most important thing on site to make sure that you're safe and you get home safe. And the lads know that. I've never really dealt with any bad attitudes towards health and safety. There was a few occasions where there was some drillers working, they were subcontractors mainly, though they weren't the drillers who worked for the company at the time. And you'd have to shout over them, put on your hard hat or put your glasses on. And they'd be like, oh, sorry, Hen, and they'd get them on straight away, just because they are used to maybe the way that their health and safety work within their company. I don't know, but I've never really had anyone ever really talk back at me or talk down to me or be I'm not doing that. As in, I'm not anything to do with health and safety. Other things, maybe oh, come on, drill your borehole. They want you to go 15 meters instead of 10. So, I'm not doing that.
On a Friday,
I have to do it. Okay, fine. Never.
It is a good thing.
It is a good thing, I guess.
Right, so that brings us to your impressive following on Instagram and TikTok. So you got 141,000 on Instagram, if I've got that correct. 20,000 on TikTok. Oh. So how did you decide to leverage the social media platform to share experiences in the geotechnical and geological industry, really? Because I watched a few of them.
Oh, it's mental. It's blown up. It's now at 167,000 followers on my Instagram. It's gained another 20,000 followers in the space of just a week or something like that. Ridiculous. So I wanted to do this for a while. Maybe a few years ago, I thought there's not enough online that talks about rocks. I want to make many documentaries about rocks, but I don't have the time to do it. So when I was on HS2 2 years ago, like 3 years, whenever it was, 2 years ago, I thought, I really want to do this, but to do it, I'd have to spend my spare time, like, you know, at the weekends going on adventures, making videos and stuff, and I just really struggled with time. So then, kind of as time went on, it was always in the background of my head. I'd love to make like kind of videos about rocks, like reels about rocks, like on Instagram, and TikToks about rocks. And it wasn't until this year, I think, that it really kicked off and I could really concentrate on it after a year of settling in at Storey contract. And I realised, okay, I no longer work away from home. I've got all this extra time in my hands, like in my spare time. Like, I don't have to put in stupid hours, like, either. Like, I can, like, I've got a work-life balance back again because I'm not working away from home, because that's the only issue sometimes when you're in this industry and you're working away all the time. You don't have a work-life balance, really. You just spend, like, the majority of your time working. But I was like, right, I need to start doing this. So it was in March. And I had set up my wee page. Now, my TikTok had already, like, 10,000 followers on it, but that was built up because I think one of my videos, like, that was to do with my dog, kind of like gained like 4,000 followers or something like that. I started putting like videos up of just me talking, like selfie videos of me talking about rocks at first, and some of them were all right, they would get a few hundred likes or whatever, but I opened my Instagram up like I think it was like last year, but I never really concentrated on Instagram until March time, April time this year. And when I went on, like, I went to the Highlands, with my mum, and I gave her the camera, and I was like, Mum, you record a video of me. And she's like, okay. So she would just be like action. And I'd be like, all right, what's happening, guys? Like, the day I'm here and we're going to talk about these rocks. And see, the thing is, like, I think it's better to be myself and promote it in a way like that. Yes, it's like, it's a broad Scottish accent, and like some people might not understand me, but that's why I put the subtitles on. But originally when I spoke about doing this last year to a few people, they were like, oh, you'll need to do it properly and speak in a posh voice. And I was like, that's never going to work. I'm never getting followers doing that. I think the majority of people follow me because of the way that I am. Like, I'm quite open, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm always like, oh, look at this rock. And I think that's just how it's blown up. So since like April, I think after I started uploading those first few videos, I went to Glencoe, and this is where it started going viral. Like, so I spoke about Glencoe and the geology of Glencoe and like how the rocks, like the mountains, like what they're made of. Like, it's mainly rhyolite lava, and there's a whole ring intrusion around Glencoe as well of the granite where the caldera like collapsed in on itself, right? So I'm up in Glencoe making all these videos, and I've put them online, and one of them's now at 200,000 likes or something like that. I can't even remember. I'm going to check. And it just went from there. I just went away every few weekends, and I went to the Isle of Mull as well with my best friend Laura. Okay. She works for Dunelm as a principal engineer. Like, she's honestly, like, she's lovely. She's my rock bestie. We went to the Isle of Mull like in May, and I made more videos there. And once I started uploading it, it just started growing. And 1 minute I was at 10,000 followers. A few days after, I was at 20,000 followers. A few days after that, I was at 50,000 followers. I thought I made myself a goal that I would reach 50,000 followers by August. It's now August, and I'm at 167,000 followers on Instagram. And I love doing it. I get so many different messages through saying, we love your videos, they're amazing. Oh my God, I've never ever thought about geology in that way. And I just love promoting it because people don't think about it. Geology is everywhere. You use geology, like, without geologists, you wouldn't have like things in life, all the components that make up your phone, or like the building blocks, or like the oil that you put in your car. I know that there's a lot of controversy there, and also the lithium batteries that run your electric cars, your phones, your vapes. I mean, I don't vape, but like, you know what I mean? Like, geology is everywhere, and it's so mental that like there's not enough. I just felt there wasn't enough out there. Like, even though there's other geocommunicators as well out there, like, which I love like connecting with, and it's just grown like so quickly that I'm just like, oh my God, I've been starting to get I've been getting invites to like certain like places to do talks, to like, do things like, and it's brilliant. I'm gonna like look into. I'm developing a website right now, and something that's like hopefully in the process of being like done like hopefully next year. Like, I'm looking. Well, I've got like the liabilities etc. in place. I want to start taking people on geology tours across Scotland. Like, something that people would really be interested in. I've had a really big request for it, and I think it's something that I'm going to push and do next year. like in my spare time, and just do it on the side, like, and take people on geology tours. And it's opening up opportunities. But like Lad Bible have been in contact with me. They've content licensed some like one of my videos. Like there's other like opportunities out there as well. Like because my followings, like I've gained 167,000 followers since like May. Like it's just like opened up this whole new opportunity like for me. So I'm going to continue doing it in my spare time and just going around places in Scotland and speaking about the different areas of Scotland, maybe producing like wee mini documentaries that are longer, because you're only limited to a minute and a half like on Instagram or 3 minutes on TikTok. But I'd love to make larger documentaries. It's just trying to find the time to do it, like, but make larger ones and put them on YouTube, and then
it's a good idea. And you're right,
teach
it's
people about
intrinsic
rocks
to society, isn't it? Really, geology in all aspects, and people don't potentially realize it. But it's also a beautiful thing, isn't it, to go out and see the rocks in the field. And you mentioned about Marl. I think I watched that video. So that was yourself and Laura. So that's where I done my mapping sort of dissertation there. In relation to it's kind of blown up really quickly and it's getting lots of attention. And I think it's definitely exactly your passion comes over as it is right now, really. And to say kind of say in a different voice and kind of suppress your personality, that wouldn't work. It's your passion.
No, I know. There's no point. Better being yourself. And I'll always say that to everyone. Do not ever let anyone tell you who you should not be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to be yourself, like, be yourself. Like, if I want to go out and, like, cut about and look at rocks and stuff and talk about them, I'm going to go do it. It doesn't matter who's standing next to me. I'm just all right, what's happening? I flew to Iceland recently, the recent volcano. I went by myself and it was brilliant. Well, the first trip I went with Oda, like, and a few friends, like, but this trip, like, again, like, I went back myself just to go see that volcano erupting, because I had never seen anything like it. I was like, wow! I lost my drone.
That's
totally
amazing. To go over there and watch it. I'd love to go and do something like that over in Iceland when there's a kind of active sort of lava spill. That would be amazing. So you've been on a BBC radio show as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience and how it felt to bring the geotechnical engineer and geology to a broader audience?
Yeah, it was really good. It was funny though, like, because as soon as I got the email sent through, I was kind of like, off the ball. Is that not like a football show? And I was telling my dad about it, and he was like, yeah, usually they go on football, but they always have random guests on. So I was like, But the producer phoned me up and he was lovely. He was like, all right, Luisa, like, how you doing? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, and he says that, we'll set it out this way and just come on the day, just drive up to the BBC building, press the buzzer, they'll let you in. So I drove up, pressed the buzzer, they let me in, they met me, and as soon as I walked in, they've got the old red sandstone as their floor. It's like the walls, and I'm like, oh my god, you guys have rocks in here, and they were just looking at me like, oh my god, this kiddo's mental. So it was really nice. It was good to be on the radio. I've never been on the radio before. It was probably my first major opportunity that was given to me. Like, it was pretty cool. I was quite nervous before it. And when I got into the room, my legs started shaking. And when you speak into like this speaker thing, like, and you've got the headphones and you can hear your own voice, so you're just like, oh my god, like I can hear myself talking. But I thought it was a really good really good like show. Like, they made me feel comfortable. Like they were brilliant, actually, like really, really good. Like, it's a good experience just talking about how I promote geology. But basically, the producer, his mum was a geography teacher, and he came across my Instagram, and he was like, we just look at people that have got like that are Scottish that have like just something extra, but like that when your page is just blowing up, and I'm like, I'll always be myself. I'll never ever let anyone tell me or this changed me. See, because I have a massive following now, it doesn't change who I am as a person. Like, I'll always be the person that I've always been brought up to be. Like, I'm quite a nice, like, down to earth, like, person. Like, where, like, if you approach me and ask me something, I'm quite, unless I'm stressed. But even the followers that, like, I went and done a talk at the Edinburgh Fringe last week on Tuesday, and there was a few of my followers that came, and they were sending me messages after, saying to me, oh, we'd recommend, like, you're so lovely, you're so genuine in person, you're just like you are in your videos, like, you're just so, like, enthusiastic about rocks and about stuff like that. So there's a few other opportunities that are happening in the future. I've been invited to do a few more talks. I never ever thought I'd do a talk. Usually it's like people who have PhDs or that are lecturers that do these kind of talks. So me, it's really exciting because it's promoting geology and it's not boring. It's not as if I'm like an old man. Like, nothing against old men. Like, but like it's not as if I'm like the unit that presents these things and people are like falling asleep.
You're right.
That.
You kind of think of it as,
like,
perhaps in a lecture theatre.
People just like it.
With someone who has well-versed experience. But however, with social media and it's your personality that sort of comes through, and it's authentic, isn't it? You're saying you've been yourself, etc. So that's if you were to be putting on pretense, you would eventually get found out, really, and it wouldn't feel very comfortable for you to do at some point. You would lose your passion, I would imagine, to pretend you are and act as if you don't normally act, essentially. So it has brought on lots of opportunities so far then, and sort of collaboration. So far it's lots of opportunities in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, just see where it takes me. It's just something that I'm doing on the side. I self-fund it as well. Like, so it's honestly like sometimes I don't go on adventures every single weekend because if I could afford to go on adventures every single weekend, usually like videos that I did. But I'm going to do the NC 500s, and so I'm going to do like videos on like all of the geological like sections of that, like in Scotland, and I think that'll be really good and a really good hit. I've still got videos that I haven't posted from like Iceland from like a few months ago when I was out and about up in the Highlands, so I'll post them first, and it's just trying to find the time. But I'm glad I do have more time than what I did before. Like when I was working away last year, it was really difficult. Like, but I just, it's like there was something missing from social media, and that was rocks, especially in Scotland. The rocks in Scotland are fascinating. But I'd love to go down and like see like the Jurassic Coast and stuff, and like go down to Yorkshire as well, and maybe go look at fossils and all sorts. Maybe one day, like go to the Lake District too. I've been invited to like a slate mine in the Lake District called Haweswater Slate Mine. They want me to come and like make videos like and talk about the rocks, and they're going to do a blast in their slate mine, and I'm just like, oh my god, yes. So I'm going to do that hopefully in October. Like it's good.
So are you finding that it's in terms of sort of coaching and developing young engineers at work? Are you finding that's helping to sort of engage and inspire them as well?
I get involved as well through my work. Like I get to do some talks in schools sometimes, like just through like story contacting. But outside of that's doing the social media thing. Like I get messages through from mums saying, my son wants to be a geologist and you've really pushed him. Like, and can you identify this rock for us? Like sometimes I lose track and I can't answer every single message, but I get a lot of good feedback just saying, oh, we love your pages. Just wanted to say that your page is amazing. Like, I want to be a geologist. I've had a few people as well approach me and ask like if there's potential like opportunities at story contracting like for like in the future for like summer school or for like apprenticeships and stuff, or for obviously there's no apprenticeship in geology yet, but hopefully there will be in a few years' time, and story can offer that. Yeah, it's opening up opportunities, I think, for young ones, and it's promoting geology again. Because my friend was saying that there's not as many people that go to uni to do geology nowadays than what there was when I went to uni. Like, if you the same as well with you, like you must struggle sometimes to find engineers for certain jobs because there's a gap in the industry, and like there's not enough people that go into this industry, and I want to promote that so that there is. Engineers.
There seems to be some schools have closed down their A levels. There seems to be universities. I think people are actively trying to work against it, but there definitely doesn't seem to be as much demand. But with people like yourself, perhaps Ashley Elliott as well, who can be influence really in terms of the social media and BBC interviews, that sort of thing. That's what can really help out, especially at kind of the younger audience as well. The people in school, who inspires them to go on and create the demand for the A levels going forward.
Well, I'm hoping that happens. Like, there's like a girl that I speak to on a regular basis. Her name's Andrea. She works as a geography teacher at one of the schools near Aberdeenshire. I'm not too sure what one. She is trying to promote geology. She's got a geology background, but she's trying to have a word with her school and say, can I teach geology? Can you have geology on the curriculum? I would love to see if I could teach geology. I'd love to do it. I find geology is so important so that you have a basic understanding of what the earth is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, geography, you learn a little bit about the physical side, but geology is so interesting. I feel like they've just missed it out, skipped it, and because there's not been enough people that could teach it in the past. I don't know.
You're right.
Yeah, I think that they'll be about bringing it back in schools, and hopefully that'll happen in the future. That's probably one of my
that's a really
aims,
good aim to have, because it definitely, the industry definitely needs it. And you said about sort of me finding engineers for various clients. It is tricky. I suppose each engineering geologist out there is really kind of worth more to the industry, because the fact is there's just not as many coming in, and those who are coming in, or some of those who are coming in, are not really wanting to go into the outside, be on site all the time. They want to kind of go straight into the office, which isn't, and also not work away from home, which is like, this is ground investigations. It's tricky to come straight in and do that.
No, it's really difficult. I think nowadays it's harder, like, to find the people that suit the jobs, because as you say, like, our job, like, as an engineer geologist, you do have to work away, and you do. It'd be the same if you're a petroleum geologist or any other mining geologist. A geology degree, and I think you just have to make sure that people are aware of that before they actually want to go into it. You have to work away, by the way. Like, it's a good experience, so working away isn't bad. Like, you get to learn the geology of different areas. That's what I used to love about it. Don't get me wrong, you get homesick eventually, but it's all about communicating with your company and saying, oh, can I have some office time for the next few weeks or whatever after this project? Is that okay? But then it's all impacted on how much, like, how many jobs they've got on, and the lack of engineers means that they have to send their engineers from job to job to job to job. So it does get to the point where it's hard. It's hard work. I was there. I got to the point where I was on HS2 and I don't want to be here anymore. Like, it is really difficult to find the right mentality, etc. of, like, people is hard, but you have to make them aware of that in the first place. By the way, you're doing a geology degree, you do know that
it's part of the lure initially, I think, or it can be for some people. I remember it was for me, just kind of getting in the car at 3:30 on a Monday morning, travelling up to, I think Lockerbie was one of my first jobs, going like working on a wind farm project, which is just in the middle of nowhere, and it's just beautiful. There's not many humans around; it's just kind of nature and rocks. And like, this is absolutely fantastic. But eventually, then it's like, I want to be a bit close at home, or really have a mix of going to see those places. Because if you don't travel, you don't get to see the variety of sites and rocks and all the rest of it. It's just your local.
Yeah, like, that's like when I drive up the A9 now. Like, it's funny because I can tell you where the garnets are. Like, I can tell you where like you can find kyanite in the rocks, like different minerals, index minerals that you find in metamorphic rocks. I can tell you where the samite is. Like they have like K-feldspar rich samites up there that are pink and beautiful to look at. Like, honestly, when I'm driving by, I'm like, we drilled a borehole here. That's KP. Like, I can always remember, like, the numbers of the boreholes, like, in my head, and I'm like, and there was a borehole up here, and that's a cutting, and the discontinuities were doing this, and we had to do boreholes to catch the discontinuities. And anyone I'm with, whether I'm going on an adventure with someone, like one of my friends or that, like, it's funny, honestly, especially when I'm with Lauda, because me and Lauda, like, we spent the majority of our junior years on these projects up in the Highlands, and it was brilliant. It was so fun, and the people made it worth it. Like, Lauda, like working with Gordon as well. Like, he works for WSB now in Cork. He works for Dunelm. Like, all my close friends, those group of friends that I used to work like with in the Highlands on these projects, they're like the friends that I still have today. I don't speak to anyone like from uni really like anymore, but you know what I mean? The people that, grow closer with, like, over your career, like, those are the people that will probably stick with you for the rest of your life. And it's really good having that friends just driving by things, being like, remember that remember that trial pit in the peat, like, or whatever, like, remember that soakaway that we had to go and sit 9 hours at, like, because the client didn't want it to, like, the client didn't want to stop it, even though it wasn't going anywhere. It's all these memories that you develop with the people that you work with. That's probably what made, like, my career, like, as well, really fun and interesting. And it still does to this day. The people that I work with, like, it's probably what makes me.
And I think it kind of helps the way in the staying away. Because I remember stuff when I was working for Senior Engineering, we stayed away in a house together. There was like sort of 6 of us, which is an unusual thing. But we playing like board games in the evening or going to the pub. writing up logs, these sorts of things. So you wouldn't get that in a normal day to day.
Yeah, I would be in like at the pub, like in Pitlochry somewhere on a Thursday night. We'd be having a meal, and I'd have my logs out, checking my logs. They'd be like, Louisa, put the logs away. I remember we went out for dinner once in Inverness for the Longman roundabout job, right? And we went for dinner with Jacobs, and one of my friends works for Jacobs, Loda, Richmond. She's lovely, honestly. Like, and we were all out for dinner. And there's me just checking a log in the background, and they're like, Louisa, can you not just like? And I'm like, I'll be 2 minutes. I just need to get this log checked because I just liked it. I loved it. Like, it was good. Like, you didn't have much else to do, to be honest, in the evening, so you were kind of just worked like sometimes to get things done and dusted. And me being a perfectionist, I just wanted to get it out of the way. But it was fun, like going out, especially like and discovering like different places. When we worked up in the A82 at Loch Lomond, I stayed away because it was too far for me to travel. So I was staying with all the drillers, like, and it was brilliant. Like, you'd stay in a hot tub lodge, go to work, like work all day, and it was a summer job as well. It went on from April to like October, right? So you'd go work out, like, and do whatever. I was mainly in the cabin though, like. And then you'd go home, you'd just go in the hot tub at night, or you'd go like to the Falls of Falk, or you'd go swim in the loch. It was brilliant. Go do water sports. It was that was my favourite job, probably. That I'll never forget.
It sounds amazing, and that's why people should more people should get into the ground investigation industry to have experiences like that. Because, like I say, it's not quite a normal experience to have, really. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the podcast, Louisa. You have been a fantastic guest, bundles of passion for what you do. Do you want to just let us know in terms of to check you out on sort of TikTok and Instagram, how to do that?
Okay, so like on TikTok and on Instagram, my name is Scottish Geologist. Like, so I don't know if that'll come up. Right, you see it there. On Twitter, I couldn't use the full name Scottish Geologist because it only lets you use a certain amount of characters. So I'm Scott Geologist, like, it's backwards, but like Scott Geologist on Twitter. I got everything else on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm Scottish Geologist, and Facebook as well. But my Facebook ties into my Instagram, and anything I post on Instagram just goes straight to Facebook. And I haven't been on it in a few days, and it's gained 23,000 followers in like a week and a half. And I'm just like, not that I can't handle it. I can't track it all. I don't look into who follows me. It was quite cool though, because some celebrities follow me, and I'm just like,
right. Well, we'll put some of the URLs in the sort of
just different,
the description of the podcast, so anyone looks at it, and then when we advertise on LinkedIn and various and Twitter and everything else. So we will do that. But thanks very much for your time. It's been a pleasure listening to how passionate you are in relation to it.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ground Investigation Podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please support the show by leaving it a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. For more information on what was discussed in this episode, click the link in the show notes now.